because the Sichos is going to bring the concept from a person getting married. And since in this week's parsha it talks about the laws of marriage, so the Dvar Malchus brings from the Sefer Yalkut Gula Mashiach the concept about how certain law halacha concerning marriage that will apply in this particular lesson to do with Mashiach. Yet this sikha was said like in proximity to Pesach because it talks a lot about Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay, so the first page that we have printed out over here, we're going to go to the bottom of the page. Last line on the second column. Bnei Yisrael b'Mitzrayim lefnei ha'geula, the Yidden in Mitzrayim before the redemption. Hayu, they were, let's turn the page, b'matzav, one second, let's turn the page. Hayu mishubadim ka'avadim leMitzrayim, they were enslaved as servants in Mitzrayim, be'ervas ha'aretz, in the most immoral, disgusting place in the land. Goy mikerev goy, they were taken out, a nation from within a nation. That's how much they were immersed in Mitzrayim. They were totally inside the nation of Egypt. And it even seemed that in many things they were like the Egyptians themselves, to this degree that the Chazal bring that the Malachim said, these are serving Avodah Zarah and these are serving Avodah Zarah. The Malachim said, like the Malachim even complained when the Yidden were crossing the sea, and they were saying, why are you drowning the Egyptians and keeping the Yidden alive? They said they're both serving Avodah Zarah. What's the difference? If this was the way they were when they left Mitzrayim, this was also when they were still in Mitzrayim. Even Moshe Rabbeinu said that seemingly why are they worthy of the Geula? Moshe Rabbeinu had this question about why would they be worthy of the Geula and so on. Chassidus and Chassidus terminology, Shebnei Yisrael Hayazim Shekoim B'Memtes Sharet Tumah, the Yidden were then immersed in the 49 gates, meaning the 49 levels of Tumah. Va'ad she'isa, till it's brought down, Shebe'im Hayin Yisharim Oy Derega Mitzrayim. If the Yidden would have remained even one more moment in Mitzrayim, Lo Hayu Yichayim Ligal Rachmal Etzlan, heaven forbid, they would not have been able to have been redeemed. Yetzias Mitzrayim hoisa b'zeh, and the going out of Mitzrayim was in such a manner, shegam b'yoisam kol kach shkuyim be'ervas haaretz, even when they were so much immersed in the most despicable part of the land, in the most lowest part of Mitzrayim, makim azum avatuma, in the place of the dirt and the filth and the impurity. From there, the Eibusha took them out in his glory and in his self. And he chose them. They became revealed over them, the King of Kings, Hashem, and he redeemed them. And he chose them, and he did not choose anyone else. Only in Yisrael, his nation. And in you and in us, you were chosen from every nation, every language. The Alter Rebbe explains what is the us that that the Eibusha chose. It's talking about the physical, material body, not the neshama, because choice has to be between two even things. So therefore, the neshama, it's not possible to say he chose us, because our neshama is completely different than the nefesh of a guy. So therefore, when we're talking about choice has to mean the physical body. That's similar in its material state to the bodies of the nations of the world. And why did he choose them? To bring the Yidden close to him in a true closeness, in a true union, b'shas Matan Torah, during Matan Torah. So you see, the degree to the degree that we were immersed in the physicality, to the degree we were immersed in the world, to the degree we were immersed in just being similar to the Egyptians and similar in their service and their tumah and so on, still in all, the Eibishter took us out to be able to make him close to him and to bring us close to him by Matan Torah. By the way, this is the theme of the bracha Avas Olam that we recite every day before Kriyas Shema, that we speak about Hashem choosing us from amongst the nations and bring us close and so on. It's one of the explanations. Why was it necessary for the Yidden to go through the entire exile of Egypt? Egypt, we just now said, was the most immoral, despicable place in the earth. Top of the next column. This affected a refinement and an elevation of the physical world, Vachumri, and the coarse world, by the Yidden being in Egypt. That caused in the Yidden that through the Yidden an elevation took place in the world, so that the world should be worthy of the event of Matan Torah. The Eibishter gave the Torah down here below. And how was it supposed to be given below? Not that it should remain something like removed from this world, but in such a way it was given that it be able to permeate the world. To separate between the mundane and the holy, between the impure and the pure. A world that contains a situation where you descended to Egypt, like Moshe Rabbeinu told the Malachim that wanted to receive the Torah, and he asked them, did you then go down to Egypt? So because the Malachim had not gone down to Egypt, they did not receive the Torah. Only here in this world, where the Yidden were those that descended to Egypt, where you have an Egypt to descend to, that is where the Torah is given. And then the Rebbe goes on to a connection between Moshe and Aaron, which was the topic of the Sicha that he spoke about earlier. We'll skip over that to Ois Yud. But we still need to understand how does this make sense? Despite the fact that the Yidden were within another nation, inside the other nation of the Egyptians, and they were serving Avodah Zarah, Ketainas Moshe Nanal, like Moshe Rabbeinu complained. Hashem redeemed them. How could that be? Yidden were so low. Again, the Rebbe is like building up to echo what many people feel and think and say these days, we're so low, we're so terrible, we're so far from Yiddishkeit, there's so many people not observant, how can they take us out? So the Rebbe says, this is the same thing that went on over there in Mitzrayim. So he says, especially, it wasn't just that the Eibishter redeemed him, but it was in such a way that the King of Kings, the Eibishter, revealed himself upon them in his own glory, in his own self. So how can we have this? The Eibishter himself should go into Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim and the Eibishter were like two opposites. And the Rebbe is going to bring an example that when Moshe Rabbeinu had to daven for something, it says he left the city to daven for the Bara to stop. Why? Because the city was so permeated with Avodah Zarah, he didn't want to daven to the Eibishter. So the third line in the second paragraph from the bottom says, the Lechura, seemingly, afilah tefillah kala, even a slight tefillah, a small tefillah, lo yispalel b'toich hakrach. Moshe Rabbeinu did not daven within the city, the capital city of Mitzrayim, because it was filled with Avodah Zarah, with idolatry. So, and this very severe thing, which is when Moshe Rabbeinu was told the whole commandments about Pesach and Korban Pesach, etc., which begins with the words how much more so that he did not hear while he was inside the city that was filled with Avodah Zarah and so on. If so. How is it possible that the King of Kings Hashem, his very glory and self, how can the Eibishter in his own glory and self descend and come into the land of Mitzrayim, in the city of Mitzrayim, in the house of Pari, etc.? So the Rebbe brings this from halacha in the Rambam. Here he connects it with halacha that was in that time, what they were learning the Rambam. But the point is, this halacha, the Rambam has to do, like I was saying before, it has to do with what we're learning over here in our parsha, that it talks about marriage. The laws of marriage is derived in our parsha. So it says, a Rambam, Kosev, top of the next page, the Rambam writes, Mekadesh Isha, someone that betroths a woman. He marries a woman, he gives her a ring. And afterwards, she's found to have some type of blemish, defect, handicap, etc., etc. So the halach in Gemara speaks about that there cannot be made any mistakes in the marriage ceremony. A woman cannot assume that the husband is such and such, and the husband cannot assume that the wife is such and such. So what happens if at the time of marriage, after the marriage, there was a certain defect, a certain handicap, a certain problem that was discovered with the woman? So this is all dependent. Did he actually know about this blemish before he married her? If the person knew before he actually gave her the ring, despite that he didn't say, well, she has this and this problem, so the halach is that she is considered married because he heard about the defect, the blemish, and he wanted to do this. So the Rebbe is going to extrapolate from this. So this applies as well concerning the person's relationship with the Eibishter is considered marriage. That this is also a level of our relationship with Hashem and how Hashem marries us and chooses us despite things that might seem like a blemish. From this, it's also understood concerning the marriage between Hashem and the Yidden, like it says, the pasuk HaMekadesh Am Yisrael b'chuppah v'kedushim, the one that betroths his nation Yisrael with chuppah and kedushin. The simple meaning of that pasuk that we say under the chuppah means that Hashem has the betrothal or makes Yidden be able to betroth each other with chuppah and kedushin. But what it really means is that Hashem betroths us. Hashem marries us with chuppah and kedushin. What is that marriage process? It took place b'Yetzias Mitzrayim and culminated in Matan Torah. When the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim and they received the Torah, that was the giving of the Torah. That's the time of the completion of the marriage. Shari Magid Dvarav Yaakov Kokov Mishpat Yisrael. We know Hashem relates his words to Yaakov and his statutes and laws. He tells the Yidden, meaning Mashuhu Oisa Mitzava Lachedim La'asais. What he does, he commands others to do. So therefore, since he is the one that also participates in marriage, he is the one that marries the Yidden. So in the same vein, he tells the Yidden to marry each other. So by the halachas of marriage between a man and a woman down here, we can understand how it works, the marriage between the Yidden and Hashem. Since even before Hashem betrothed and married the Yidden, even before the Yidden went to the exile of Mitzrayim, before they descended into Mitzrayim, He knew in advance the blemishes, the defects, the handicaps that the Yidden would receive in Mitzrayim while they are within another nation, within the Egyptians. Those that serve idolatry. Hashem knows the future, and he knows the concealed things, and he sees ahead what's going to be afterwards. Still in all the Abishah promised by the bris bein absarim, by the covenant between the parts by Avraham Avinu. He's still in all he promised. The Sha'achre came Yetzer B'chush Gadol. After them being in Mitzrayim, they will go out with great wealth. V'shehu yikadesh as bnei Yisrael cholu, and he will betroth, he will marry the Yidden. Azaya dinu. So therefore, the halach is what Hashem's marriage with us, kedushim cholin, that the betrothal is something that applies. Lamrois hamumim shebnei Yisrael mekablim, despite the defects and blemishes that the Yidden had received, gam mumim chamurim, even if it's severe blemishes like idolatry, etc. Then the Rebbe goes and analyzes. We know that the Rambam's language is very exact. The Rambam in Mishnah Torah was very, very specific in his language. He wrote it, it's the only sefer, I believe, that he wrote in Hebrew. Many other forms that are known about the Rambam, he wrote a commentary on Mishnayos. He wrote many different letters and Chuvas and so on. Those are written in Arabic or Judeo-Arabic. But the Rambam's Mishnah Torah was written in Hebrew in very exact language. So the Rebbe is going to analyze a certain expression that the Rambam uses. He say to him is even more so, Haloshon Tzacho Brura Rambam, the clear expression and language and phrasing of the Rambam is Shama Verotza, that the husband heard about the blemish, the handicap of his future wife, and he wanted. The word rotza is italicized, it's emphasized, bold. He wanted. It's not that he heard and he agreed, viter, which means he overlooked it. Since the husband knew about the blemish beforehand, then the halach is not just that he agreed to that, or he was foregoing it or overlooking it. He wanted it. When a person does something and afterwards discovers that it's not the way it is, we have this a lot of times. You go to a store or you order something online and you see that whatever you got was not exactly what you wanted and how you wanted, and maybe even it has a defect and a blemish and something that you don't like. But for whatever reason, you just don't want to go through the bother of returning it and go to the store or turn it online, and yada yada. So you're masking, you agree, you don't complain, you're masking, you're mavater, you overlook it. That applies when a person does so after the fact. But if a person initially, before they purchase it, they know what's wrong, they know the problem, and they go ahead and they purchase it, they do it anyway, so then the term is not hiskim or viter, but the term is ratza, you wanted. So by the case where the Rambam says about a person that knew about anything that was maybe another person would not want to have in a wife, and he still decided to marry her, so then he wants her. He doesn't care about the mum. It's not just that he agreed or whatever. The mum doesn't bother him. So in a similar vein, it's what Hashem and the Yidden, it's not just he agreed, well, what can I do? I don't want to return them, switch it for a different model. No, he knew initially what he was getting into. Similar to this concerning Hashem, since he knew earlier on about the blemishes that will take place. He wanted that this should be this way. He wanted that the Yidden should be this in such a way where they will acquire the blemishes in Egypt, and he will take them out, and he will care for them. Like it's explained in many places. Shekol inyan hamumin, all the idea of spiritual blemishes that Yidden have, Ba mitzad zeh, top of the next column, came as a result, Shakadosh Baruch Hu, that the Eibishter says, Noira alila bnei Adam, there was a great scheme and plot against the people. Meaning Hashem, Hashem set this up. Hashem, in a way, wanted, is a little bit difficult to say, but Hashem would have liked the way it ended up. That Hashem wanted that the opposite things should take place, meaning that the things that are not in concert with Torah mitzvah should take place. Through that should be added in addition to the avoid of tzaddikim, gam milos avoidas hatshuva. Also the advantage of the avoid of tshuva. That's why Hashem plotted and schemed and set up, even going back to Adam Arishan, that he should fall through and eat from the Eitz Hadas. In other words, Hashem really was like pushing it in that direction. Of course, he had Bechira Chavshis. Va'adrab, and even more so, this is the true will of Hashem. That's why it's called the Ratzah. He wanted. The Chazal say, the place where Baal Tshuva stand, full, complete tzaddikim do not stand over there. Not only don't they practically stand over there, but it's impossible for them to stand in the level of Baal Tshuva. So because Hashem was so desirous of having Baal Tshuva, therefore, regardless of all the blemishes and all the concealments that takes place in the most immoral part of the earth, there is accomplished the marriage between the Hashem and the Yid, and complete marriage, binyan adi ad, an everlasting edifice. That the marriage between Hashem and the Yidden is forever and ever. In such a manner, it says like by Adam Achava, it says over there that there should be marriage, it should become like one flesh. So the same thing, Hashem and the Yidden are considered so united, Yisrael that Yidden and the Eibishter will be entirely one. Like it'll be perfectly and revealed in the true and complete redemption like the days of your going out of the land of Mitzrayim, it'll be, I will show you wonders. Let's skip down to 2 paragraphs into Yud Aleph. He says, "Val achas kam v'kamo kishnimtzoim begolus." How much more so when we're found in Golus, Shekola Golius Nekroim al Shem Mitzrayim, Nekrois Shem Mitzrayim, since all exiles are called by name Mitzrayim, so therefore this idea of what took place then repeats itself now as well. And Hashem wants us and wants to marry us and wants to have the connection with us despite whatever goes on in Golus, how low we may be. Yesh Nahira, this is the lesson that we derive from this entire story. Even when a Yid finds himself in the double and quadruple darkness of exile, and he thinks that things that are unwanted things stuck to him from the Golus, he feels, I've been affected by the Golus. I'm not a Jew that's worthy of Geula, chas v'sholom. And how can I become redeemed from this? Both on the micro and the macro. Personally, he feels he cannot become redeemed from his own personal spiritual exile. And on the big picture, how can Klal Yisrael be redeemed when we're all in such a state? He could feel down in the spirit because of this. He has to know. Shakadosh Baruch Hu Shama V'Ratza, that the Eibishter heard and knew, and he was aware what would happen with us in Golus and what would happen with us spiritually and how Golus things would stick to us. And still in all he wanted, he still in all desired this, Top of the next page, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yedea Mikol HaMumim. Hashem knows of all the blemishes. Va'adrabah, not just He knows, but even more so, Bnei Yisrael Nimtzoim Begolus B'Ritzoyne Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yidden find themselves in exile by Hashem's will. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ratza Sheyiyu B'Matzav. Hashem wanted they should be in such a state. Ve'heichen Sheyash Afshari Islamumin, and a place where there's a possibility for blemishes. Since Hashem knows of this and wants this, this is a proof that the Eibishter finds himself together with the Yidden, even in exile. And in what type of manner? Like a husband and wife, in a way of marriage and complete unity. The Golus, and the intent of the Golus that it's for the sake that the Yidden should refine the physicality and the coarseness of the world, according to the directives and lessons of the Torah. Lahavdil ben hakodesh ben hachoil al derech or the Golus is aleph the alufish alolim. Skip the parentheses. We are to reveal the Aleph of the Master of the world, Sheyesh Nagam Begolus, that's to be found also in exile. Meaning, the Rebbe says the whole time that Golus, the difference in the word Goyla and Geula is just a Aleph. And it's our job to reveal in the Goyla, which means Golus, in the exile, we have to reveal over there the Aleph, which is the Master, the Levet Eibishter. Till we will make the world as the world is a world, not raised up on the mountain or in the heavens or whatever. We turn the world into a Torah world. First and foremost, by the fact that we are not affected at all from the tests of the exile. Va'adrab, just the opposite. HaGolus mo'orer etzlam chizuk b'skashrusam HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Golus awakens by them strengthening in their bond with Hashem. Aidei limud HaTorah v'kiyum HaMitzvahs, the study of Torah and fulfillment of mitzvahs. Let's just conclude with the brachas. He says the end of the Sichi says V'yerotzen Shabirurim the Achroinim Yisud Gimel, the last final refinements has to be done. The Chol Bezman HaGolus, the final Birurim that's of the weekdays of the time of exile. Yiglu Bekarav Mamish, it's a Aleph Taluf Shaloylam Begolus. They will reveal in speedily the Aleph, which is the Master of the world, in Golus Vanasa, Gulas, and then it becomes, instead of Golus, it becomes Geulas, redemption. Geula Mitis Vashlema, the true and complete redemption. Then the Rebbe concludes over there was Pesach, that we should celebrate Pesach in Yerushalayim, but here we want to celebrate Daled El in Yerushalayim. It should be immediately right now.
Amen. 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 Isn't it Gimel Elo?
Amen. Thank you.